My name is Makoma Lekalakala, and I'm from Life Africa, Johannesburg.
Thank you, and please tell us about your own experience as an impacted person impacted by trade agreements and these large corporations.
Firstly, I think for us now is that we are experiencing a new form of colonialism. The colonialism that is being facilitated through trade agreements either from different countries, either from Western and Southern countries or Southern and Southern Northern region. So this has impacted on us negatively. And that having impacted on us negatively, South Africa has signed an intergovernmental agreement with Russia. This is an ongoing intergovernmental agreement. But however, on that, they have signed a trade agreement, an ongoing trade agreement with South Africa. But of concern, it's one it's an intergovernmental agreement that South Africa and Russia have signed around 2014. And this intergovernmental agreement involves nuclear energy. They have signed an intergovernmental agreement on nuclear cooperation. But however, this intergovernmental agreement of nuclear cooperation have actually threatened the governance of South Africa. This international intergovernmental agreement with South Africa have threatened energy democracy. That means ordinary people, citizens of South Africa, have got no right to take part in decision making to decide what sort of energy would they choose. Decisions have been made, intergovernmental agreements have been signed, and the South African government has made commitments to those intergovernmental agreements. When the agreement came to fore, that members of civil society in Russia who are part of the Don't Nuke the Climate campaign, Eco-Defense, when they highlighted that, to say this is an intergovernmental agreement that has been signed with South Africa, and there are points on that intergovernmental agreement that says that Russia is like being favored because that was the recent agreement that has been signed. South Africa has signed intergovernmental agreements with other countries before, but this one was recent. It was much more detailed than the other ones. And one worrying factor was that in case, so that means that the violation of the rights of Mother Earth were seen that this is something that can happen, potentially can happen. So the agreement indicated that in case of an accident, or something goes wrong with the construction of the reactors, Rosatom or Russia would not be responsible for that. So that will be the responsibility of South Africa. And that was a kind of a real great concern for us as to how really do our governments agree to this. And was it an oversight that they didn't see that is the most danger point? But however, since then, we have seen moves by the South African government trying to sell to us that we don't have energy, we don't have energy security in the country, and that they would like to increase, the energy security in the country by expanding the nuclear percentage in the energy mix of the country. And when they sold that to us, they said that nuclear, it's carbon neutral, has got no emission, and this is the best sort of energy that you can have, and it's not expensive. But contrary to that, also because this is an energy technology that has been used in other countries, who were informed. But as organizations and as citizens of the country, we wanted answers from the government as to why are they so eager to build these nuclear reactors. But we understood that they were influenced by these trade agreements, and they cannot detach themselves from the trade agreements and the intergovernmental agreements that they've done with other countries. There are reports that we have in the country from the Center for Scientific Industrial Research and the University of Cape Town that had said that we cannot afford nuclear energy, and would rather invest more in renewable energy technologies because this will provide electricity for those who are living in energy poverty. But however, this is being disregarded. And as the intergovernmental agreement, and we saw that the government is eager to pursue building these nuclear reactors, as civil society, because we've got a right under the Constitution of South Africa to to know as to what really is happening. We asked for questions, we requested answers, we couldn't get them. So we're forced to use the courts of South Africa to file a case against the Departments of Energy, the State President, and several departments, institutions within the government sector, because we felt that they are abdicating their duties. They have to share information with us, and we also have the right to take part in decision-making processes as to what sort of energy base load or security we would want to see. So we filed the case in 2015. Because our colleagues in the Don't Nuke the Climate campaign had given us information on it in 2014, and we followed that up, and we never got answers, but we were sure that the government has already started in procurement of nuclear energy, which we know has got an element of corruption. And besides that element of corruption, it also threatens the governance system. Today, the South African political governance system is in tatters. It's so much confusion that we no longer understand what actually is happening, or which door would you knock so that you can get answers. And it is due to this nuclear intergovernmental agreement on nuclear cooperation with Russia that had started all this, because we knew the history of nuclear energy is embedded in, or it's rooted in corruption, but not only in corruption, it's also rooted in human rights violation and environmental racism. When we went to court, we had concerns that nuclear energy is too dirty, that the nuclear reactors and the nuclear fuel chain produce vast amounts of lethal radioactive waste, that is dangerous, that if we continue to use, or if we invest in, or if the country builds new nuclear reactors, this may inevitably lead to more Fukushimas, more Church Rocks, and more Chernobyls. And these accidents, we know that they have, nuclear accidents, we know that they have shaken us as people of the world, and we are very cautious and always afraid that if anything happens, that means it means destruction of the planet as it is. But then the technology and materials needed to meet to generate nuclear energy, they can also be diverted into nuclear weapons, and this is not something that anybody would want to be associated with. Nuclear is very expensive. It's the most costliest possible mean of reducing carbon emissions. And with the South African case, the estimation as to when we build the nuclear reactors, how much would that be? That would be around $1 trillion rands. I'm not sure in dollars or in euros how much that can be, but it's a huge amount. That if the South African government had said we are actually going ahead and building nuclear reactors, it will just bankrupt the country. We are already in a junk status. Our economy is very low. The other concern why we went to court, we said that nuclear energy is too slow to deliver. People who are born today cannot wait for 20 or 30 years to be able to have access to electricity. I mean, if I agree that the reactors we built today, that means I have to wait for 25 years, and I may not still be alive by then. So it would be a debt that is being left for coming generations to be able to do. But the case that we have filed, the judge ruled in our favor on the 26th of April this year, and the judge said that the government is acting unconstitutionally and unlawfully by going ahead and procuring nuclear reactors without following due process that is on the legislative and regulatory framework in our constitution. And that victory, I think that was that was one of the most important achievements in the environmental movement in the 21st century, because if we can take the nuclear lobby head on, that means everything is possible, because we have made commitments that it is our duty to protect the planet. But however, due to the clauses and commitments that South Africa have made, either on the trade deal or on the trade agreements or on the intergovernmental agreement, we have heard in the past few days that the Minister of Energy says, despite the court case, they are going ahead in building these new nuclear reactors, but the Minister of Finance says we can't do that. That is, we cannot afford it. But we know that even if they say that, there are those who've got interest in doing that. Today, the nuclear lobby is busy. It's also part of the UNFCCC. They lobby in different countries, and lobbying different countries also saying that nuclear is cheap, nuclear is affordable, and nuclear would deliver, it's part of the low carbon energy choice. But we know that it's not. The fuel chain, the fuel cycle, it's something that the carbon, it's not counted. The carbon intensity is not counted. So they look at the last, but they also don't look at what happens to the waste. The waste, it's the most deadliest because it will remain radioactive for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years. And if that remains for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years, that means it has got potential of just destroying, Mother Earth. And Mother Earth is not going to be able to replenish itself from the dangers that are brought up by the high and low radioactive waste that comes from the nuclear energy reactors. But for us, I think we have one request, and that request is actually a demand to say that we want corporations in the world not to nuke the climate, our governments to be responsible and not take and not invest in nuclear or build nuclear reactors, because this is tantamount to violating human rights and also to destroying the earth. The other thing that we want is from these negotiations, the UNFCCC negotiations, nuclear, same as like in the Kyoto Protocol, should not be, it should be excluded now, because we know that there's very strong lobby to say that nuclear is part of the clean development mechanism, nuclear is low carbon, nuclear it's the energy of the future. It's not the energy of the future, nuclear is the energy of the past, renewable energies are the energy of the future. So we would really want nuclear to be taken out of the Climate Change Convention negotiations, because it is just going to reverse all the progress that has been made throughout all these years. We actually expected to have a climate change convention in the past few years. And the reason that it's being delayed, the discussions are being delayed, we understand that it's because of the nuclear lobby and also of the coal lobby. So for us, I think for us, the remedy also, we also want the South African government to abandon the idea of increasing its energy security with nuclear energy, because we do have a potential energy base load that has not been exploited. The other thing, we also want the South African government and also the Russian government just to ignore, or just to annul the agreements that have done. In that way, then we'll be looking into the future and maybe annul them, but convert them into the kind of agreements that will look more into real energy sources that are low carbon and not nuclear. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.